When I moved into Maplewood Estates, I thought I'd found a slice of peace. The houses were neat, the lawns trimmed to uniform perfection. And the sidewalks looked like they'd been ironed. But to me, it all felt sterile, too clean, too calculated. So, I decided to bring a bit of wild beauty into my yard. I planted native wildflowers, herbs, and vegetables that attracted bees and butterflies. Within a month, my once plain lawn had transformed into a vibrant, buzzing garden that pulsed with life. Children walking by would stop and point, delighted by the colors. Neighbors even complimented me, well, most of them. Then came Karen. Karen was the self-appointed queen of the Homeowners Association. Though technically, she was just the president. She had a clipboard, a whistle, and a superiority complex that could have powered the whole neighborhood. Her own lawn was an emerald carpet, chemical perfect and completely lifeless. The moment she saw my garden, her lips curled like I dumped trash on her driveway. At first, she was friendly. She dropped by with pamphlets about community uniformity and property values. Then came the warning letters. Your garden violates HOA Guidelines Section 4.2.3 regarding ornamental consistency. I laughed, assuming reason would prevail. My garden wasn't hurting anyone, it was helping the pollinators and beautifying the block. But reason was not a language Karen spoke. One morning, I woke to find an official notice taped to my door. The HOA had scheduled a hearing to address my violation. When I arrived, Karen sat at the head of the table like a smug judge. Your yard, she announced, is destroying the neighborhood's aesthetic cohesion. Destroying the neighborhood? My garden was alive, thriving, bursting with color while her own was a chemical wasteland. I tried to explain the ecological benefits, even showing photos of butterflies and bees. She rolled her eyes. This isn't about bugs, she said. This is about rules. A week later, I came home to find someone had sprayed along my fence line. The flowers nearest the edge wilted, their leaves turning brown overnight. I knew who had done it, but I couldn't prove it. Still, I refused to give up. I replanted, reinforced my garden beds, and installed a small sign that read, Certified Pollinator Habitat. That sign, I would later realize, became the spark for a neighborhood war that would scorch far more than flowers. Because while Karen believed my garden was destroying the neighborhood, her own actions were about to destroy something much larger, the park trees that shaded our entire community. After my garden's sudden wilt, I began to notice a faint chemical smell drifting across my yard in the mornings, a tangy, acrid odor that made my throat tighten. I followed it one Saturday and caught sight of Karen, in her sun hat and rubber gloves, spraying her property line with a large canister marked, Weed Be Gone Max. The mist blew right through the fence, slats and into my flower beds. Morning, I called, forcing a smile. She jumped slightly, then waved her gloved hand. Just keeping the weeds out. You know, so things don't spread. The way she said spread made my skin crawl. The next day, I sent an email to the HOA board, citing chemical drift and asking for an inspection. No reply. A week later, I got a reminder from the HOA, signed by Karen, informing me my garden still violated neighborhood standards. The audacity would have been funny if it weren't so infuriating. Word spread fast through Maplewood. Some neighbors whispered that I was causing trouble. Others quietly supported me, leaving notes of encouragement in my mailbox. Love your flowers. Don't let them win. It felt like living in a quiet civil war, fought with garden shears and gossip. Then, something strange began happening beyond my fence. The oak trees in Maplewood Park, the pride of the neighborhood, started browning at the tips. First one, then another. Within weeks, several had large dead patches. The HOA sent a notice claiming it was a natural fungus. But I'd been researching, and the symptoms didn't match. It looked more like herbicide damage. I started collecting evidence. Photos. Samples of dead leaves. Even recordings of the chemical hiss coming from Karen's sprayer at dawn. My husband thought I was overreacting. But I could feel it in my bones. Karen's obsession with control was poisoning everything. When I confronted her at the next HOA meeting, I brought printed photos of the park trees and the spray residue on our fence. "Your chemicals are drifting," I said. "They're killing more than weeds." Karen's eyes went cold. "You're making baseless accusations. The HOA will not tolerate slander." But behind her composure, I saw a flicker of panic. Within a month, the city's arborist confirmed what I'd feared: the park's oaks had been poisoned by high concentrations of herbicide. The culprit: a chemical only available in commercial landscaping supplies. Karen's smug control had finally backfired. The neighborhood she claimed I was destroying was literally dying under her own hand. The revelation hit Maplewood like a thunderclap. For years, everyone had trusted Karen's leadership, her manicured lawn serving as the neighborhood's gold standard. But now the truth was impossible to ignore. The park's trees, those 100-year-old oaks that shaded our summer picnics, were dying because of chemicals that matched the brand Karen had been using. The city posted orange hazard signs around the park, warning residents to avoid the area. Kids could no longer play on the swings, and the walking paths were closed due to toxic soil conditions. Parents were livid. Dogs got sick after sniffing the grass. Birds vanished. Maplewood's once idyllic charm was evaporating. At first, Karen tried to deflect. "It must have been vandals," she said at the emergency HOA meeting. "Someone must have tampered with my supplies." Her voice trembled just enough to make it seem rehearsed. But the evidence stacked against her was overwhelming. I stayed quiet at first, watching the crowd shift. The same neighbors who had glared at me weeks ago now muttered among themselves, casting accusatory looks toward Karen. Then Mr. Donnelly, who lived 2 houses down, stood up. "You always told us how to mow, how to plant, what color mulch to use. Maybe you should have worried about what you were spraying." The room erupted. Karen's face went red. "You don't understand, those weeds would have taken over. I was protecting our property values." "Protecting?" I said finally, standing up. "You destroyed our trees, poisoned our soil, and tried to kill my garden. You call that protection?" For once, she had no comeback. The next morning, a city truck arrived to remove the first of the dying oaks. Watching them haul it away felt like attending a funeral. Some neighbors cried. Others simply stared in silence. The park looked naked without its leafy canopy. That week, the HOA held a vote of no confidence. Karen was removed as president, unanimously. She refused to show up to the meeting. I heard she was hiding inside, blinds drawn, while a news van parked across the street. When reporters came knocking, I didn't gloat. I just told the truth, that I'd wanted to bring life back to our yards. And that the HOA's obsession with uniform perfection had nearly destroyed the natural beauty of our entire neighborhood. By the end of the month, the city fined the HOA for environmental negligence. Karen faced a personal lawsuit. Maplewood, once obsessed with pristine lawns, finally learned that perfection isn't the same as balance. It took nearly a year for Maplewood to recover. The park was a scarred landscape of stumps and caution tape. But slowly, change began to take root, literally. After Karen's resignation and fine, a new HOA board was elected. One that valued sustainability over sameness. They approached me, asking for help designing a new community garden to bring life back to the neighborhood. The irony wasn't lost on me. We started small, raised beds filled with native wildflowers and pollinator plants. Families came together on weekends to plant milkweed, lavender, and sunflowers. Kids who'd never touched soil before squealed as butterflies landed on their hands. For the first time, Maplewood felt alive, not polished, not perfect, but real. The transformation rippled through every street. Lawns became meadows. Driveways sprouted herbs in pots. The rigid conformity that once defined us gave way to color and creativity. People who'd barely spoken now shared compost bins and gardening tips. We even started a green fair, inviting local schools and farmers to teach about eco-friendly practices. As for Karen, she eventually moved away. Her house sat empty for months. The grass growing wild, a quiet irony that made some of us smile. Rumor had it she tried to start fresh in another development. But the internet never forgets. Her reputation followed her like a bad smell. Sometimes, I walk through Maplewood Park and pause beside the young trees we planted to replace the fallen oaks. They're still small, their branches thin, but they're growing strong. The air feels cleaner now. Lighter. The faint hum of bees fills the space where silence once lingered. One afternoon, an elderly neighbor named Mrs. Jensen stopped me by the community garden. "You know," she said, "Karen told us your flowers would ruin everything. But it looks like they saved us instead." I smiled. Nature has a way of healing if we let it. The sign by the park entrance now reads, "Maplewood Community Habitat, a place for people and pollinators." Beneath it is a smaller plaque dedicated to the lost oak trees. I touch it every time I pass. A quiet reminder of how fragile balance can be, and how powerful growth becomes when we stand against fear, disguised as order. Karen thought beauty meant control. I learned beauty means coexistence. And though my garden began as rebellion, it ended as restoration. Because sometimes, the seeds we plant in defiance are the ones that heal the world.